Okay, are we guys ready for Marvel Phase 3? Because I know I am, because I am so ready. So ready for Avengers Infinity War, which is right around the corner. So let's go ahead and get started here, guys, with talking about Marvel's Phase 3. The one that starts off Marvel Phase 3 is none other than Captain America Civil War. This is the one that I'm really excited to talk about here with you guys. So this one is directed by the same directors of The Winter Soldier and our upcoming Infinity War movie, which is Joe and Anthony Russo. And it's starring with a big, huge cast here, none bigger than any other superhero movie ever before. We got Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan. We've got John Cheadle, Jeremy Renner, Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther. We got Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Rudd, Emily Van Camp, Tom Holland, which is Spider-Man. We got Frank Grillo, William Hurt from The Incredible Hulk returning, confirming that movie to the MCU. And we've got Daniel Bruhl. This is the movie that everybody was so excited about because you got your favorite superheroes, the team of the Avengers, splitting apart, clashing against each other, fighting against one another. It's one of the best superhero movies out there of all time. Better than The Dark Knight, better than The Avengers. Well, I can't really say that per se. I mean, Dark Knight is pretty much one of the #1 biggest superhero movie of all time. But Captain America is one of the greatest, and it's just so awesome. It's got a great storyline. Quite usually in superhero movies, when you crowd the movie too much with so many different characters, it pretty much takes you away from the film and it makes the movie less important to watch. But this one, they did an excellent job. They fitted everybody in there with their own story arcs. It all just came together. It was like one big puzzle piece, completing the whole entire puzzle. So it's such an amazing movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. It's one of the best. I really enjoyed having to see a live action version of Black Panther. Black Panther is perfectly amazing in this movie, even within his own film. And then we get Spider-Man finally into the MCU. It's such an amazing experience having to see these superheroes for the first time ever doing their thing. And I think it's a little bit more of a preview as to what we're going to be experiencing into Infinity War, because this is not all of the superheroes. We got even more coming forward in Infinity War. So this one is such an amazing film. I had a lot of fun with it. What did you guys think? You can always comment in the section in the bottom, and we can have an awesome conversation regarding towards this film or any film in general. So let's go ahead and let you guys know what the ratings of Rotten Tomatoes is, which they gave it a 91%, which is, of course, it's highly agreeable. But for me, I love this movie enough to give it a 95%. 95. I just enjoyed this movie so much. I wish I could give it 100, but like I said, not every movie is 100% perfect. They all have their flaws. But based off of what I can see, this is pretty much like a prelude, a prequel to Infinity War. Because right after this film, we're actually approaching into the Infinity War movie. So it's so exciting, so amazing. I love Captain America Civil War. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with this character and all these other different characters that are introduced into the MCU. So let's go ahead and jump off to the next film here, you guys. A new introduction to the MCU of the Avengers team is Doctor Strange. So Dr. Stephen Strange is a professional surgeon who gets into an accident that causes his hands to have a lot of numbness in them, to where it causes him to shake and lose his career as a doctor, and he does anything possible for him to get himself healed and have his hands back to normal so that he could get back to work. So unfortunately, he isn't able to find the solution until he hears a possible way for him to get his hands back, which he is introduced to. Well, first of all, Doctor Strange is starring Benedict Cumberbatch. We got Chidwell Ejiofor, Rachel McAdams, Benedict Wong, and this is where he gets to meet the Ancient One, played by Tilda Swinton. Then we got Mads Mikkelsen and Benjamin Bratt. And so she teaches him the ways to having to become this sorcerer and finding a different way on how to save lives rather than having to become the Doctor. So. It's an interesting movie. It's one that many viewers and MCU fans have been waiting for. It's a very favorite character. But for me, from the way I look at it, I wasn't too familiar with the Doctor Strange character, as well as many other superhero movies that have been introduced into the MCU. This movie happens to feel a little bit too rushed for me. It seems to be a very, for me personally, a very low-ranking film. It doesn't seem like a film that seemed huge enough to say, hey, this is a character that we're putting a lot of effort into. I just saw it something more of a bypass, something to say, okay, yeah, we're introducing this character because we need to use him for the Infinity War movie. So because I feel like he's going to have a more huger importance into that movie rather than his own film. Like say for example, Rachel McAdams, her character in this movie was very useless in this. Much more useless than Natalie Portman's Jane Foster character in the Thor movies. And even the villain, Mads Mikkelsen, I love that actor. He does a humongous great work with his acting career. But in this, I see him as a villain in the MCU, but he didn't really put a lot of effort into saying that this is a really memorable villain here. So I didn't really feel too well about this one. I'm really hoping that in the future we'll get to see more and experience more as to who this character is and what he's all about, and different worlds and dimensions that we're going to be introduced into this, because this movie is pretty much an introduction into the world of the universe actually expanding to greater and bigger things. So on Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it an 89%, and for me, I gave it a 73%. At least it's still a positive ranking. It's not a very low one. It's not the cheapest MCU film to date, but it's really down there. It's really borderline for me. So let's go ahead and jump on to the next film here, guys. Everybody's favorite galactic team in the next MCU film, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This one we have the returning cast of Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista with the voice characters of Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel, and the return of Michael Rooker, Karen Gillan, and then the villain of the movie, spoiler there, Kurt Russell as Ego, and we got Sylvester Stallone in this as a little cameo for future Galaxy movies. And this is a really huge return to the Guardians of the Galaxy. This took several months after the first film occurred, and we're experiencing these them being introduced to Ego, which is the living planet played by Kurt Russell, and he happens to be the what's his name, Chris Pratt's character. Chris Pratt's character's dad. It's a great, interesting movie. It's the beginning of it. The majority of the film is actually very much a lot of humor, a lot of laughs in it. You get some action scenes here and there. The relationship between Yondu and Rocket Raccoon is very deep, and then we also get a little bit more of a deeper relationship between Gamora's character and Nebula's character, as them clashing together as with their sister history and stuff like that, again with Thanos and all that. And we get another introduction to the Guardians team, which is Mantis, and it's a great movie. I mean, Baby Groot is one of the huge positives. He's one of the cutest characters ever introduced, we have a really good experience with this movie. It's just that it's not as good as the first one. It has a very deep story, but it doesn't connect all these characters together as how they did in the first movie. It's a great MCU film, but it just doesn't meet to very high expectations as intended to be. And on Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it an 83%, which is still a positive rating. And for me, I still give it a positive rating of giving it an 80%. It's still a great movie, but there's just so many aspects to the film that puts you in a situation of wondering, is this going to go anywhere? I mean, you very much don't really have a plot to the movie until at the ending of the film. And you get five, not one, not two, but you get five end credit scenes, which keeps the movie much more entertaining after when the movie's already over with. So it's a fun film. It's really great to watch. It's also a movie that brings you into before the Infinity War movie. It's just so entertaining, so great. Let's go ahead and jump on here to the next film here, guys. So next on the list, we got Spider-Man Homecoming. So after his great successful performance in Civil War, we got Spider-Man coming back into his own film after several horrible Spider-Man films throughout the years. And we haven't had a really great Spider-Man film since 2004's Spider-Man 2. And it stars Tom Holland, we've got Michael Keaton, we've got Marissa Tomei, Zendaya, we've got Donald Glover, Jacob Batalon, we got Laura Harrier, Jon Favreau, and of course Robert Downey Jr. And I really love having to see Robert Downey Jr. Do his performances in this movie, because he plays such an excellent mentor figure to Peter Parker / Spider-Man, rather than having to have Uncle Ben in this getting killed all over again for a third time. And it's such an interesting film. It's directed by John Watts, and we get Michael Keaton playing the Vulture finally, and he does a brilliant performance playing the Vulture. We finally get a villain in the MCU that it's worth having to watch, that has a very deep, meaningful character and storyline to the film, and it just brings Spider-Man into much more of a brighter picture, and with a meaning to continue going on with the story. So and we're now experiencing Peter Parker in a position of being only a kid in high school, rather than having to graduate and experience his early adulthood as Spider-Man. But the very meanings of Spider-Man is having him to be this kid and experience his ways of being Spider-Man by having to learn the responsibilities of being a superhero and becoming an Avengers team member. So it's such a great and amazing film. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and the story is so amazing. There's a lot of great connections to the MCU, having to know that this is part of the MCU, that Spider-Man is at home. That's why they call it a homecoming. So it's such a great, awesome film. I had a lot of fun with this. I couldn't believe that I'm watching a really great, excellent Spider-Man film once more, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him in Infinity War and future Spider-Man films. So, on Rotten Tomatoes, it gave it a 92%, and I agree with it very highly by giving it a 93. So, it's such an amazing film. If you guys haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it before you go watch Infinity War. It's such an excellent film. So, let's go ahead and jump on to the next film here, guys. Another great MCU film, Thor Ragnarok. We finally got another Thor film. It's been a while since we've seen one, and for good reasons too, because the Thor storyline was a complete major disaster. The first film was excellent. The second film was the one that really bombed, and this one really brought it back on the map, because they changed the Thor character. They changed the whole story. They moved. They got rid of some characters. They moved everything to a different direction, and they made it more comedic. They made it more brighter. They made it much more watchable. They gave it much more meaning to wanting to watch this character again, and watching to see what this story was taking it towards. And it's directed by Taika Waititi. We've got Chris Hemsworth, of course, returning back as Thor. We got Tom Hiddleston as Loki, as always. We got Cate Blanchett, another great villain in the MCU. Finally, we got Idris Elba, Jeff Goldblum. Oh my God, Jeff Goldblum is such an amazing actor. He's so funny in this movie. He's just so great. We got Tessa Thompson. I think her and Thor have a better chemistry together in this, rather than him and Jane Foster. Mark Ruffalo, we got Thor and Hulk in this together, because they weren't in Civil War, so they might as well have a buddy movie together, which was very fun. We got Carl Urban. Benedict Cumberbatch is in this as Doctor Strange, and of course, after Doctor Strange, we had a little end credit scene of him and Thor, so he's pretty much only in it with less than 5 minutes of the film. But he does an excellent performance in the movie. I had a lot more fun watching him in this movie rather than in the Doctor Strange film. And then, of course, we get Mr. Anthony Hopkins. And it's such an amazing story. I love the 80s theme. And I love the clash between Thor and Hulk. You know, it's just so great to watch. So much fun. I had a lot of fun with this. It's a very unique MCU film. I'm very much looking forward to seeing different films with the same aspect as this. I think that since we had so much great success with Guardians of the Galaxy, that we decided to go ahead and take this upon with Thor as well. And it is a movie right before Infinity War, like exactly, because there is an end credit scene after this movie that gives us an introduction as to what's to come in the next film. So I'm very excited to see what happens in the future. Such an excellent movie to watch. I always have a lot of fun watching this movie. And on Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it a 92%, and for me, as always, gave it a very high ranking of a 94%. MCU is doing an amazing job with all these amazing films. I just can't wait to see what Marvel has more for us in the future. Let's jump on to the last film here, guys. Alright, let's talk a little bit of Black Panther, one of the greatest MCU characters out there. This movie just came out a couple of months ago. It hit a lot of great rankings. Reviews were awesome. My review for it is even awesome as well. Such an amazing movie, such an amazing character. He did an excellent performance in Civil War. That having to see him and the introduction of Wakanda and all these different characters, so great. And it's starring Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther himself. We got Michael B. Jordan in this, and he is the he's the villain of the movie and another great bad guy in the MCU film. So MCU is learning from their mistakes and having to becoming much more better by correcting those mistakes with these better villains. Better storylines, better ways on having to get these characters going here with a much more brighter picture to the whole mix. And we got Lupita Nyong'o and Nanai Guerra. Excuse my pronunciation, I'm very terrible at this. Martin Freeman, we got Forrest Whitaker and Andy Serkis. And on Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it a 96%. And for me, I loved it enough to give it a 94. It was such an excellent movie. And it's also another film that brings us into the introduction of Infinity War, because the majority of what we are going to be seeing is, from what I know, no spoilers here, is that the final attempt in the ending of Infinity War is going to be in Wakanda. And at the ending of, it's no spoiler here, but at the ending of Black Panther, they decide to go ahead and reveal Wakanda to the people and start introducing the vibranium metal that they have to the world. And I guess that's what brings all of our superheroes together. And I don't know what's to come. I don't know. I'm just so excited to see what Infinity War is going to bring to us here. I just don't know. So that's my review for Marvel Phase 3. What do you guys think? You can always leave a comment in the bottom, and we can have an awesome conversation recorded towards any of the Marvel films or any film in general, because I don't know, I'm just so excited. I can't wait. I bought an Avengers Infinity War poster. I got the cup. I got the t-shirt. I'm just so ready to watch this movie. It's coming in less than 10 days. I'm so excited for it. I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And you know, and more of an introduction to an even bigger universe here. So I'm just so excited. I can't wait here, guys. So that's my review for Marvel's Phase 3. Let's go ahead and end this, and I'll see you guys in the next video here. So I'm Awesome Joe, and as always, stay awesome. Thanks, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.